Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate Profits Podcast with your host, Chris Davison.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. It's your host, Chris Davison. Just want to jump into it today. I get this asked a lot. Well, how do I get started in real estate? And I really want to be able to add some value today and really answer some questions that I get often that I think would make sense and help us both out. Kind of nail it down, the 5 reasons that most people never take control of their financial future. And I think really I boil it down to the high cost of staying small and not investing for you, your spouse, and your family for something different. I know it's a struggle. I'm Chris Davison, your host. I'm glad to talk about real estate, how to make money in it, how to be profitable. But today we're diving deep, kind of backing up a little bit into a conversation that might sting a little bit. It did for me when I first got started. I was just struggling, probably like you are, just struggling. And people ask, hey, how did you do it? What did you do? And I got to be honest, I had fears, but I took action. And I think if you take action, I know it's a trite saying, but action takers are money makers. It is. If there's no risk involved in the situation, there's going to be a reward. If it's safe, you put it into a savings account or a CD for 1 to 2% a year, that's not even above inflation or taxes. I want to dive deep, but exactly the wake-up call that I needed years ago, and I want to be real blunt, and we're talking about why most people, even with those with massive potential, never take control of their financial future. And I struggle with this, and most people will never commit to something different for their life. I knew for me, real estate investing was it because I could not afford not to do it. I tried other things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds. I had some money in my IRA, got started with some seed money there. But I found I just worked harder, but I was just trapped and exhausted in the grind. I kind of call that the 2X mentality versus the 10X mentality. We'll get into that today. But when you look at the numbers, it's a paradox. Everyone says they want financial freedom. Everyone I talk to says they want passive income from flips or rentals and being in real estate. And, I wanted to have a lasting legacy for my family, but I couldn't even know how to figure out how to retire, let alone retire my spouse, retire myself to do what I wanted to do for what I was doing. My definition of retirement, real quick, my personal definition is retiring from what you don't want to do to what you want to do. And there's 4 freedoms. Dan Sullivan talks about this and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. There's the freedom of money. That's the first one. That's really important because if you don't have that, you don't have the other freedoms. There's freedom of time. There's freedom of relationships, who you spend your time with, who you don't want to spend your time with. That's really important. And then freedom of purpose. Once you achieve the financial freedom, then time freedom and freedom relationships, then you have purpose to your life. And you have even more so what you can do. Leave what I call a family legacy. If you ever make that leap, if you ever jump into those time freedoms, those freedoms, because the first freedom really hinges on the rest of the freedoms. And when I heard this, it made sense to me that I wanted financial freedom, time freedom. I wanted freedom of relationships, who I hung around with and spent my time with. And now I build my team and who I want to be with. And now I have freedom for purpose. And my goal is to make leaders. I'm a leader who makes leaders, and I change people's life through real estate. Like my life's been changed. That's my purpose now. That's where I step into. I enjoy it. But most people never make that leap. I just want to get into it today, but I want to get into your journey and what your journey could look like by stepping into it, taking a leap of faith. And there is a leap of faith. It just is. Through my own journey, from swinging a hammer as a carpenter to scaling a real estate profit system we have, I realized it isn't a lack of opportunity holding people back. It's really a mindset trap. It really is. I found 5 reasons most people stay stuck on the sidelines and I figured out exactly how you can break free from it. So number 1 is the comfort trap, playing it safe and having incremental goals. Like I'll save $50 a month. I'll save $200 a month. Saving is a trap. It's never going to get you wealth. Saving can be great, and you need savings for some life expenses for 3 to 6 months. Have something set aside if your car breaks down, if you have to change jobs, or if you have to move, what that looks like. I'm not saying that you don't need savings, but that's safe. That's just a baseline. That's never going to get you ahead financially. That's an incremental goal in my book. So most people base their future goals, I believe, entirely on what they've already achieved in their past. Your brain is looking for repeat patterns. You're looking for what's comfortable. When things aren't comfortable, your brain rejects it. This amygdala rejects it. Fight or flight kicks in, or you say, no, I'm not doing this. So look at your current situation and think, okay, how can I improve this by 10% a year? And that's the 10X mentality. How can I get a raise, incremental raise? How can I do more at work? How can I get a part-time job? How can I go DoorDash or find a side hustle? And that's a trap. It feels realistic. It feels comfortable. And it feels safe. I was working harder. For me, I was working harder in a career I didn't love just to get passed over in promotions. I paused, I looked, and I saw in 5 to 10 years, it didn't get any better for me. Even if I did get a promotion, just a lot more work and only a little bit more money after a jump in the income tax bracket and then a minor raise. I thought, that sucks. This sucks. That was the thought that was going through my mind. This sucks. But safe goals only require minor tweaks. And and the more effort I learned, the more effort I put into it, they keep you locked into working harder and faster and longer hours. And job stands for just over broke. I know I've heard that before. It's funny, but it's not really funny. Employers, are to grow their business and scale. That's what they want to do. And they're doing it with your labor. And nothing wrong with that. You're agreeing to take a wage for your time. And then they're agreeing to take the risk as the business owner to make more money. But I like you to do it for yourself. Don't get locked in. Working harder, faster, and longer hours is what I did for years. That's all I knew. I'd get to the job site early. I would pour in exhausting hours, stay late, repeat it all the next day, and I would get accolades. Oh man, you're one of the hardest working people I know. But coworkers would say, other subcontractors, or the owners would say, thanks so much for the extra effort. And I felt good for a second, but it didn't equate to dollars for me. It did not equate to dollars. I stay late. I'd repeat it all the next day. And I thought that's what success required. But the reality is that was a linear growth. It was a fast lane to burnout. I was getting burnt out. People don't, and so this is real estate investing. Look at it. People don't invest because they think adding real estate means adding 10 times more stress and gray hair to their already packed lives. They don't realize that a 10x vision for their life actually simplifies your world by forcing you to throw away the complex and heavy systems that keep you small, you're thinking small, and then really look at a linear path to where you want to go, to having a bigger goal that you can get in, get behind, and then work super hard and put both feet in and do. That's what it took me. Here's a habit. I have a story of painting. It's a habit of painting instead of operating. And this is a massive stumbling block for a lot of people. And it might not be painting per se, the physical thing, but when you trade a low skill, not that painting's easy, don't get me wrong, but you trade a skill like painting for leverage, like finding a deal. I'll just give you a quick story that I heard in a book, and I really like it. I think people refuse to invest or scale because they're addicted to the low level, day-to-day tasks that make them feel productive. This was me. Even when those tasks are robbing you of wealth, I like to check things off. I like to get projects done. I like for things to be done and have that sense of accomplishment. But my priorities were on the wrong things. My priorities were on tasks or projects that paid enough to pay the bills, but not really growing my wealth. Does that make sense? I call this the trap of painting. Our minds like dopamine hits. We like to-do list or checking things off. It makes you feel good. Maybe that's good for getting groceries or running errands, I found. Yet it's a trap financially. Look for things that you're doing on a daily basis. Are those tasks moving the needle in a substantial way forward for your long-term financial health? Or are you getting stuck being busy, but not prioritizing important tasks? For me, I like to get the things that move the needle or important to me, get them done first, get that out of the way. Then the other stuff of the day is just icing on the cake, as the saying goes. The painting prep, I remember reading a story about an investor who decided to save a few bucks by spending Saturday painting a vacant apartment himself. He couldn't get anybody to paint it. He turned off his phone, spent a grueling day covered in paint, felt incredibly accomplished. He was very satisfied. That evening, he turned his phone back on, got home, had dinner. He had 2 voicemails. The first was an elderly lady wanting to sell her house quickly to move out of state with family. She was only asking $30,000 for a property that was easily worth $120,000. The second voicemail is from his buddy saying, hey man, I answered my phone. I got this deal from a lady. She just brought it to me for $30K. I'm going to make $90K off of it. He sat and thought, man, if I spent a Saturday doing a manual job he could have hired out for a few $100, that investor lost out on a $90,000 deal, which would have brought him $90,000 equity. I mean, that's a huge mistake. I call it the painting story. And we all have our stories like this, that we miss out on opportunities. Or I've heard people talk about investing in Wendy's Corporation. They even put $5,000 in and they'd be worth millions right now. There's a lot of stories like this. And it's not, I say the deal of a lifetime comes around once a week, because when you're looking for it, you'll find what you're looking for. Kind of like when you buy a white car and you never noticed that white car before, but now you see the white car everywhere in the highway and the roads. It's just like that when you're looking for deals, when you decide to step in to that 10x mentality. But most people won't step into real estate because they insist on asking, how can I do this task? Which is important. You have to know how to do it, but really you're asking the wrong question. Instead, who can do this for me? Now, obviously, real estate is not a passive thing where you make no money, but you will stay stuck in the weeds instead of stepping into your role as a high level operator. Let's talk about this for a second. Learn there's so many people that want to help you succeed. That's why you have to view your team. Number one, property managers. If you're busy, you're making 6 figures, you're in a cubicle, or you're a highly paid professional, you don't want to step into this full time. That would be nonsense. People are already doing it and they want to do it for you, like property managers, maintenance people. You can hire this, and a good team member can help you make you money. And once you see this, it becomes a team sport, and you can leverage your best skills to make you the most money, and then have others help or collaborate with you or hire them so that you're not doing that. That's why I want to get back to the painting analogy. If you're painting and you're not focused on your high level activities or highest and best use of your time, you're struggling. Let's talk about this. This is when I get the fears. Number 3, the fear of letting go of the present vehicle to achieve a massive financial breakthrough. This was a struggle for me. You have to be willing to completely abandon your current vehicle when it no longer serves you or your growth. This is one of the things I talk about, the 80-20 rule. 80% of your efforts produce. I like to take that 20% and do something called the 64-4 rule, where 4% of your highest leverage activities, what you're really good at, enjoy doing, like to do, create 64% of your outcomes. The 80-20, and out of that 20, I do a 64-4 rule. What that means is you got to completely abandon current things that aren't working. That 4% is what you got to focus on for growth to get 64% results. Most people are terrified of that kind of revolution. That's scary. I mean, that's scary for me. When I dove full-time in real estate investing, it was incredibly scary. I was highly comfortable, probably like you are and what you're doing now, relying on immediate cash coming in daily, weekly, monthly. For my next contracting job as a contractor, I was also a real estate sales professional making a commission. It was good money. I was making good money, six-figure money, but it was linear. I would produce this month, have my best month ever. Then guess what? Next month, I'd have to do it again. And I had to repeat the entire hustle every single month just to pay my bills. Turning point for me came when I stopped trying to upgrade my construction and sales roles and made the bold decision to double down entirely on real estate investing. I wasn't going to be called a realtor or contractor no more. I told everybody I knew I was a real estate investor first and foremost. Those were the phone calls and conversations I had. I was a full-time real estate investor. I stepped into my new role. I had to let go of the immediate validation of a day's labor to hyper-focus on building long-term wealth through rental income. Most people never build true financial freedom because they won't let go of a good situation to make room for a great one. Let me just pause here. I know change is scary. I know the unknown is just that, but success is just on the other side of taking action, which is what you really want. Let's get to number 4, kind of piggybacks on this, falling for the myth that scale requires mass capital in real estate. This is the 4th reason I think a lot of people stay frozen, because they're afraid to have massive deal flow, massive capital to back. You know, one of my favorite stories, before Donald Trump became president, he wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. It's humorous from my standpoint, because I grew up very humble. Parents are truck drivers and factory workers in West Virginia. But Donald Trump said he started out with a modest loan of $1 million from his dad to buy a 50-unit apartment complex in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, me, even to today's standard, a modest loan of $1 million is a lot of money to me. That's a lot of money, $1 million. But I think a lot of us think we have to have that kind of capital or resources or network to do that. And that's not the case at all. I think it's the 4th reason why most people stay frozen, the deeply ingrained belief that you need a massive, unattainable amount of cash to start or scale a portfolio. I think that's linear thinking. Again, you save for a down payment, you buy one house, wait a few years, repeat the process. Maybe the banks will lend to you, maybe they won't because of your debt to income ratio. Because that process feels painfully slow to me, and probably to most people. They'll give up even before they start. They don't realize that scaling isn't about accumulation, it's about structure and leverage. And one of my favorite mentors says, other people's money, other people's time. And then really what I found, it came down to infrastructure that runs entirely without you. Linear growth, I think in real estate, a lot of people see it as 1 + 1 = 2. And that's slow, capital dependent growth. Where you have a 10x mindset is 2 × 5 = 10, which is really your systems, your structure, which you become dependent on your team. This is a real quick example of this, because people always ask me, hey, how do you do owner financing? How do you structure these things? How do you grow? How do you scale? So I had a deal recently. I call it my 2-house a duplex deal. I got 4 total doors, 3 properties, sorry. I reached a point where traditional financing I knew wasn't going to get me the next level fast enough. Eventually the banks will say, no, there's never enough capital. For me, instead of waiting for capital to catch up, I used a creative acquisition strategy to control 4 doors simultaneously without bringing any new capital to the table. By stepping into the existing mortgage, one loan on the 2 single-family homes, and the duplex was one loan for the seller, I structured a monthly payment directly to the seller. I replaced raw cash with a creative deal design. I had no money out of pocket in the deal. And actually, out of that, you can look and you'll actually get the deposits back when you sign the paperwork. You're actually getting paid to take this deal on. But it made sense. I took the loan that was already in place. I make a payment to the tired landlord who wanted to get out every month. And so from those units that are rented, day one, I use that money, deposit in my account, and then I make a payment to the seller, and then he's able to make the mortgage payment, and then he pays it off. After the rents are collected, with the net return of that deal, I had zero money out of pocket, $452 a month is what our performance is going to be on that. I get the depreciation, which is 3% each one of those properties every year. The government makes you take that depreciation. I get the equity buildup. I get the appreciation, and I get to control some great real estate properties, which in turn I can sell. I can refinance, pull the equity out and go buy more or pay those properties off. I have a lot of options. That's just one deal of many to work out even this month. People don't invest because they're waiting for money to magically appear. Rather, they're learning high leverage skills in networking. That's what I learned. We're learning to connect. We're learning to use creative deal generation. That's how you can overcome that massive capital that you think you have to have. You could overcome that by having creative deal structure. The fifth challenge I find most people have in getting into real estate is the lack of identity and indecision of trying. And I think this is real important. You're going to fail. You are going to make mistakes, but you have to make your own mistakes, make your own things. That's why you need a mentor. That's why I try to help people. That's why I want to help people. I made so many mistakes, embarrassing mistakes that I could have prevented had I not got a coach sooner, which I did get some mentorship and coaching, and it just expedited the process. And we were able to grow because I learned new skills and new ways to do things that I didn't know before. This really baffled me. LeBron James, I'm from Akron. I'm an Akron kid. It's where I come there for my family. Went from West Virginia and we migrated to Akron for several years. Then I finished up in Central Ohio, my high school career. But he's an Akron kid and he spends 12 million bucks a year. I heard this. I don't know if it's true. 12 million bucks a year on nutrition and weights and working at the weight coach. That's crazy to me. But this guy's doing it to play at a level that most people never, ever will be at. Now, listen, I know there's a debate about who's better, Michael Jordan, to basketball fans out there, or LeBron. Of course, LeBron's better. And if you argue with me, let me know in the comments. I'm glad to have that discussion with you. Being an Akron kid, I just think he's better. He shows up. He's still playing. So that's where I'm at. But he still has coaching as the moral of the story. Your lack of identity and indecision, you just don't know. When you get a coach, you have confidence when they've already done it, already been there. Here's the mistakes and pitfalls. That's what I try to help people do now is avoid the mistakes and pitfalls that I went through and that my mentors went through so you don't have to do that. Once again, most people never take control of their financial future because they're stuck in a state of trying to succeed. Their actions don't match their stated goals because internally they still view themselves as hobbyists. This was a challenge I had, or a spectator who just try to figure things out. And the absolute turning point in my business happened when I shifted my identity. I stopped seeing myself as a handyman with a few properties. I started identifying as a CEO managing an asset class. I view every building like a McDonald's franchise. One of my mentors told me this. I look at each building as a franchise. Is it making money or is it losing money? How can I change it if it's bad and make it good? If it's good, how can I make it great? How can I make it better? When you make that identity shift, your standards change completely. You stop chasing average, noisy, 100K starter flip houses that everyone's fighting for in the marketplace that I've discovered, and you stop saying yes to distracting projects that scatter your attention. You develop what I call the power of no, clearing out the bottom 80% of your distractions to hyper focus on those 20% things that are making you money. And then really the 4% core activities that drive 60% of your actual results. That's the 10X challenge. If you're listening right now and you're realizing that you've been letting safe goals and busy work and lack of focus hold you back, I want you to take action today. Message me. I would love to help you change your life, your financial future. And just like real estate's changed my life. Look at your last 7 days. Identify the one task that devoured the most of your time, but created the absolute least progress towards your ultimate financial goals, and then apply the 10X infrastructure filter. 3 things. Do you want to automate that task, delete it, or automate it? Do you want to delegate it, or do you want to delete it? You don't need more hours, and you definitely don't need more exhausting effort, and you don't need more gray hair or no hair like me. You need a bigger vision, and I like to help people get that bigger vision because 10X isn't just a random goal. It's a baseline now. You have a new baseline for growth, requiring what you need as a requirement for your true financial freedom. I'd love to help you work through this next question and get the answer you need. Let's end today on this last question. What is the single biggest distraction holding you back from stepping into your role as a high-level real estate operator? If you need help with that, let me know. But what is the one thing that is holding you back from stepping into your role as a high-level real estate operator? Thanks for joining me today on Real Estate Profits Podcast. I love it. We're going to have more guests on here soon. Hopefully, if you're enjoying it, like, subscribe. If you're getting value out of it, let me know. But especially in the comments or direct message me. If you need help to get started, to get going, to grow, to scale, let's talk about what that plan could be for you. I'd love to help. Thanks so much. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate Profits Podcast with your host, Chris Davison.